Hello, fellow readers. Welcome to the channel where the star is the book, and today's edition is a sort of daisy. She loves me. She loves me not. She loves me. She loves me not. Really, as love is such a complicated and neurasthenic task these days, so I've decided to recruit the help of a complicated and neurasthenic brain to help you apprehend the full scope of it. Ladies and gentlemen, Yuri Felsen's Deceit. First, a word about Felsen. He was a Russian emigre. He fled the USSR in the early stages of the Russian Revolution. He sought refuge in Paris, France, where he lived several years. Sadly, on account of being a Jew, he was captured by the Nazis in World War II and later executed in Auschwitz. I bought this book because it was published. It was hailed by the publishing house as the long-lost work of the Russian Proust. And since Proust is one of my favorite authors, I really had to see how he compared to the real McCoy. But more on that later on. First off, what are the main topics of the book? First, really, love is such a nerve-wracking chess game. Listen to this on page 49 as it sets the tone for most of the amorous confessions of the rest of the book, as the author is writing the journal of his relationship with one lady named Leolia. Like friendship, love, business, and all sorts of other alliances, requires guile, calculation, and agenda. And then we go through the several stages of enamorment. We go through the ebb and flow of the amorous imagination of a neurasthenic. He has a hard time admitting that his relationship with Leolia is on the rocks. And as we bear witness to his predicaments, we realize that really love is the best or worst possible date you can probably have with your own destiny, because a pattern of healthy or unhealthy relationships is formed through it, which is critical in our lives, since really the name of the game is interdependence, is interconnection. We can become addicted to the rewards of love as much as to its humiliations. Felsen also reflects that love is the only God for the godless. Listen to this on page 97. We, people without God and without faith, need something palpably alive at least to invest it with divinity and lofty perfection. And we unwittingly sanctify those rare days and hours of love's reciprocity, of which we write and talk, as do the faithful of hours of prayer. You can deduce from it, I would argue, as is the case with Flaubert's parrot, that God is whoever loves you back. Finally, you gave someone in your life God-like status, and then you're unceremoniously spurned. The sting of rejection also has the venom of a crisis of faith. To settle the score, then it's your time to draw, and you'll have to sting someone else. Felsen writes about this on page 117. I now have that same dark, unnecessarily hurtful power over someone that Leolia once had over me, that same nagging cruelty born of animus, since I, sensible too and mindful of the wrong done to me, am capable of and even compelled to inflict it in turn. That is, one might even say, an inevitability to all this, an eternal exchange of roles that brings us hope and comfort on bad days. Felsen even took the time to reflect on a possible world with dating apps. You can be the judge of whether or not he nailed this. He really didn't. Page 104. As he seems to ponder a world with Tinder. If only it were possible to meet for the sake of immediate gratification, without all those tedious and insincere overtures, like animals, as mothers disdainfully educate their curious sons. How many strong, long-lasting bonds there would be. How many women's pride would be spared. I particularly enjoy the part where he writes that a new stricture, conscious, stems from love. The moral parameters of your actions and feelings and judgments no longer only take into consideration number one. And if there are kids involved in the equation, you're probably downgraded into third place. Javier Marias wrote extensively about this on his wonderful book, A Heart So White. So I strongly advise you to check that out too. About the new conscience, listen to this description on page 136, a wonderful description. Like savages before our own God, we will continually, and of course mentally, ask a woman who has reluctantly conquered our hearts about every littlest, most inconsequential thing, making her imperceptibly into a kind of semi-abstraction of our conscience, and hence our romantic obsession is inspired and enlivened by a special heightened consciousness, as its in naive awareness is the body by the soul, one that makes us uncommonly demanding of ourselves. As you can see, the sentences tend to be a little on the convoluted side, but still, there's an interesting nugget of truth here to be found. The main moral of the book, to me, reports, of course, to the title, Deceit, as the narrator tries to persuade himself that his relationship isn't really over, as all evidence points to the fact that it is. He is deceiving himself, and he's accusing Leolia of having deceiving him too. Page 196. Listen to this grenade of a sentence. This is the most striking sentence in the book. Another manifestation of love's curious inconsistency is knowing one thing, yet still believing the exact opposite, believing wholeheartedly in what has been thoroughly refuted by the experience of others, as if success in love or despair never ends, and as if those who do not love us are guilty of something. To sum up, if you are unsure about the veracity of your significant other's feelings, I would say it's about time you analyze it with the full mental scope of Felsen's brain. And lastly, how does he compare to the original Proust? And to me, sadly, he doesn't. He's miles behind Proust. Even though Proust was bedridden through most of his life, he had these immense psychological insights, this tidal wave of psychological insights into really everything, ranging from love, cruelty, jealousy, the military, you name it, friendship, and the list goes on and on and on. Whereas with Felsen, through most of his complicated and overwrought sentences, even though he writes well, I'll give him that, you only sense that there is really a psychology of me. So that's a wrap up, you kind folks. Enjoy. Hope to see you again for a next review. Until then, please read on, because if you think your life sucks, that's probably because you're not trying hard enough to scoop more dirt on the life of others. See ya.